Let's get to Kevin Green, who joins me now for a closer look at what's on the docket this week. And of course, we're going to be seeing a lot of data hitting the tape. We've got some PCE, we've got the PPI. We're going to get a little bit more of an information update on the broader inflation picture. But of course, coming amid a holiday shortened week, KG, what are you going to be looking out for?
Yeah, on the economic calendar, really tomorrow is going to be the big headline day, I think, for the week. You are looking at retail sales numbers. Now, this is going to be for September, so they're still going to be a little bit stale, but at least it gives us a gauge as to the health of the consumer and allows us to try to build out a trend here. Headline retail sales is actually expected to come in at 0.4% on a month-over-month basis, an increase, which would be actually fairly healthy. If you're looking at core retail sales estimates right now, that's sitting at around 0.3%. Both of those are really healthy numbers if you're kind of looking at the overall macro environment. We're also going to be looking at PPI as well. Now, this is going to be a very volatile number. Once again, this is going to show the September print, and the market is looking at headline CPI at 0.3%, and then core CPI coming in at 0.2%, which would be, for the most part, a welcoming sign in some respects. Now, this PPI print is also going to be a little bit unique. We are not going to receive final intermediate demand goods moving forward here, so they are going to kind of restructure how much they report when it comes to producer price indexes moving forward. That's from the BLS. That was announced back on July 30th. So still a good gauge here, but once again, a little bit stale. The market is going to be kind of facing a little bit of a light week this week when you're looking at volume. You can also see that within the E-mini S&P 500 futures right now. A little bit over 500,000 contracts have traded so far since the overnight session. That's not that much, to say the least here, and you are still seeing very low liquidity levels. So volatility should probably still stay elevated throughout this week. But from a technical standpoint, you can make the case that had a down week last week, tested the 20-week moving average in the S&P 500. Maybe we get a counter trend bounce to the upside, and you're looking at that 50-day moving average at 5,712 as your first major area of resistance for this market. Let's see if that actually does come to fruition over the next couple of days.
Okay, as we mentioned, a holiday-shortened trading week, perhaps trading a little bit thin on the ground this week as well, given that as well. I mean, we've looked at the macro, what to expect there. What about the micro? I mean, we're still going to be getting some key earnings reports. I know, obviously, we're going to be hearing from some Chinese names, but you're going to be looking out for Dell. It's going to be interesting to see what they have to say in light of some of the conversations more recently around the high prices of memory. What are you going to be watching out for?
Yeah, so a couple of names. Obviously, Alibaba coming out tomorrow morning. That's going to be very interesting. You are seeing those shares move to the upside, not only because of that data that we got overnight, but also looks like some positive, neutral to positive comments coming from President Xi. So the China stocks are actually moving pretty aggressively today, and let's see if that's going to actually hold on for the remainder of this week. Also looking at Dell as well as Deere Company. Now that's going to be reported on Wednesday, and that's going to be an interesting one because obviously it's been seeing some headwinds on the fundamental standpoint. The grain prices have been relatively low, and you are also seeing maybe a waning of demand when it comes to buying some of their machinery. But we have seen a little bit of a reacceleration in some of those grain prices over the last couple of weeks. We are seeing the dollar kind of strengthen up here a little bit, or at least stabilize. And then we also have these trade deals kind of taking place, and Deere could actually be a beneficiary of that. So let's see how they actually report. I think it's actually a little bit of a lower bar going into this, but if you look at that 3-year weekly chart, you can actually see Deere making a little bit of a bullish cross actually taking place right now on that MACD, where that 12 EMA is crossing above that 26 EMA. We have seen that type of action happening in the past, and follow through does usually follow up on that here. So an interesting technical setup above that 20-week moving average, breaking out when you're looking at the RSI. I think this one's going to be a key name to watch out for because it is also lagging its peer Caterpillar, which continues to make higher highs as well as higher lows. Let's see if a catch-up trade actually does take place when it comes to Deere Co.
Okay, so a couple of names to watch out for this week, and as you mentioned, some Chinese names too. We are just learning, as you touched on that as well, KG. Xinhua news agency, the state-backed outlet over in China, reporting that Xi and Trump have had a phone call. Interesting, because I was listening to Lutnick on Bloomberg earlier this morning as well, talking about how the decisions on chips to China, including NVIDIA, that decision now basically is sitting on Trump's desk, which is interesting as far as, you know, who's going to make the final decision here, given the more hawkish camp we've heard within the administration. But obviously on the geopolitical side, the other thing we're watching this morning, and very key to what we're seeing as far as commodities is concerned, is these peace talks. It looks like the White House is touting some progress there, productive discussions. However, we've got the Wall Street Journal pointing to some big gaps to fill and perhaps still some more sticking points as far as the Europeans are concerned. What are you seeing there, and what does it mean for commodities?
Yeah, you did see a little bit of a flush to the downside last night when it came to crude oil, but now we're pretty much trading flat, and that's because of this, this back and forth when it comes to this peace deal between Russia and Ukraine. And if you kind of look at it objectively here, Russia definitely gets a lot of concessions, whereas Ukraine looks like they're going to be pushed in some areas here in order to get this over the finish line. And that's really where you are seeing the concern from the EU, which the EU is going to be the ones to really try to sign off on this deal, because obviously they have a little bit more risk. They're a lot closer when it comes to Russia. So a little bit of back and forth when it comes to the crude oil markets. You are also seeing diesel prices aggressively moving lower as well. If we do see Russian oil flows hitting the market, it's a little bit, it's more heavier crude. It's sour crude. That's really what's needed for that heating oil or that diesel market, some of those heavier byproducts. And so you are starting to see that actually move a little bit lower here as well. We could also see when you're looking at diesel, this is the heating oil chart. We use them interchangeably here. We had this inverse head and shoulders pattern, but now it does appear that we are breaking a little bit lower, maybe breaking that area of resistance or leveraging that area of resistance at around $2.66. Let's see if we actually do have a meaningful pullback, and if we do, $2.16 could be an area of support here. Now, we do know that inventory levels when it comes to diesel as well as gasoline are relatively low here in the United States, but if we do see a deal get over the finish line over the next couple of weeks, it probably could put additional pressure on the energy markets as a whole. I don't think this is a done deal yet, though, Sam. Keep your eye out on this. I would be very shocked, and a lot of analysts out there would be very shocked if this deal gets approved pretty much in the framework that it is right now, just given the enormous amount of concessions that Russia would actually receive with this, which is why, once again, you're seeing a lot of pushback from the European nations.
Yeah, that's right. That seems to be the sticking point, even though Trump has obviously been taking to Truth Social even this morning, talking about how they've made progress, and this seems to have been quite productive talks over the weekend, but we'll have to wait and see. Thank you so much for that, KG. I'll check in with you a little bit later on.